Alright, at the end of this video there's probably going to be a couple of extra bits on the end where I was going around explaining what I'd previously done to the vehicle, forgot bits. So after I say peace and love, I've been Springy, see you later, there might be another couple of bits, unless I can edit them in, and if I do it'll be really strange choppiness. Hope you enjoy it. Hello, Springer back, just doing a quick service on the Vauxhall Envoy or Astra van, Isuzu engined 1.7 DTI TDI. Anyway, so it's a quick service on it. I normally do them twice a year. Every 6 months I change the oil and the oil filter, and then every 12 months I change the oil filter, air filter, and then every 24 months I change the fuel filter. But as I've done bugger all miles, I've left it for a year and I've done about 3,000 miles, so I'm just doing it on a time basis. Well, I'm just warming up the engine because I don't deal with sump plugs anymore. The last 5 years I've been using a vacuum pump on all vehicles. It makes life so much easier. It's quick, it's not messy, it collects all the oil in there and then you can decant that into the empty can, and you haven't got to mess about with sump plugs and sump plug washers. So if you think it's a bad idea not to undo the sump plug on the car, if you were to take your car to pretty much any dealer or any commercial outlet or one of these sort of Halford centres, they won't touch a sump plug. They all use a vacuum pump, and I change my oil in all my vehicles so often, as you've heard, either every 6 months or 5,000 miles. In this case 3,000 miles. I don't think it's an issue. If you take a sump plug out of a vehicle, you would have to leave it 24 hours to get all the old dirty oil out anyway. So that's my theory, that's how I do it. While she's warming up, I'm going to undo any bolts necessary for the air filter, but I'll have to turn it off, the air filter, because there's millions of little seeds floating around in the air. So right, well, engine's pretty warm now, so it makes sense to be draining the oil while I'm then messing around with the air filter and the oil filter, because it takes quite a long time to drain all the oil out. Right, so dipstick out. I suppose I should undo the cap to let some air in. I'm not going to leave it open because all of these things are flying around. I'm just going to prop it on top so air can go in. Give that a quick wipe. And all you've got is a like a reinforced steel rubber coated hose, which I've had to repair twice because I managed to chop it with an angle grinder. So we push it down the dipstick till it touches the bottom of whatever it touches. It's just a vacuum pump, just pump maybe 30 times, let the oil come out, and then check it every 5 minutes or so, give it another 20-30 pumps. Eventually it'll get it all out. I like to make a nice downward gravity slope for it. I'm sure it doesn't matter. It just stops the oil sagging in the pipe. Right, well, while that's draining, air filter, it's just four metal clips on this one, which makes a change. I did Holly's BMW Mini the other day, and it's just two 2 Phillips screws. Oh yes, this requires a wiggle without taking the air inlet pipe off, so I'm going to stop for a minute and get that open. Well, this is actually the old filter, so it's virtually spanking clean. So I might just chuck that in the... I'm going to put the new one in anyway. It was less than £10. I'm going to stick this in the little cupboard in the shed, and I'm just going to blow out with the airline this debris in the bottom of the air filter housing. It probably would have been more sensible just to undo the hose and take that off, but you can wiggle it out. Well, there's my new air filter. That's a Marl, and this I think was a Wix. To be honest, this actually looks much more substantial. Just looks nicer, and I'm sure it does exactly the same job on a 20-year-old diesel. Right, I did blow it out first, and I made sure I wasn't blowing anything into the inlet. But she's in, so I'm going to clip that back in place. Okay, next up is the oil filter, and it's the very typical nowadays cartridge that goes inside that little sausage there, which is a 32mm socket, 25 Newton meters of torque. So I'm going to get some rag around there because I will spill some. Right, she's coming out. Sometimes the filter comes out with the cap, sometimes it stays in the hole. Well, there you go, it's come out with the cap. And there's going to be some there's some O-rings on here. There's one big one for the cap, and there's 2, I believe, on this bit, which is not part of the filter, it's part of the cap assembly. Yes, there you go. So O-ring there, O-ring there, O-ring there. That's the 3 in here. So I'm going to take this into the garage and swap them over, smear a bit of oil around them. I'm just looking in there, tiniest bit of oil in the filter housing, which I'll probably suck out with my vacuum. I mean, it's not going to make any difference, but you know. Right, 3 new O-rings are on. 1, 2, 3. I'm a bit sad I keep all of the old O-rings off of every oil filter, just in case in the future for some reason you get you get an oil filter and it hasn't got the O-rings in it, and it's a bank holiday and you break off the one that's... Anyway, just in case, I keep all my old oil filter O-rings. That's just me. I've given that a quick wipe out, and I am going to pop that in there, right inside up, although I believe these are the same both ends. But normally, as a rule, if they look the same both ends, right inside up, and up is this way because this is upside down. So, well, that's in. On the BMW Mini diesel, there's a hole that you've got to line up. A hole. There's a proboscis you have to line up that sticks out the end of the filter. But anyway, we're not doing a BMW. We're doing a Isuzu. Okay, well, while I was playing with the oil filter, the engine oil is well and truly draining. We're nearly at 5 litres. Can't remember how much is in the van. I just literally I use the dipstick. So I've cleaned out, well, I've sucked out that bit with the vacuum. I haven't actually stuck a rag down there and cleaned it. You know what, it's a diesel. Oh look, seeds. I do not want seeds going in this air filter. Oil filter. Yeah, it's a diesel with brand spanking new oil. The first 5 miles, it'll be black anyway, because that's just the nature of diesels. Right, I'm going to put this in carefully, get my torque wrench, 25 Newton meters. I've had to use my medium sized, me 3/8 drive, and I've put an adapter on it up to 1/2 inch for the big socket. My 1/4 inch doesn't go up that far. This one's got in the range, and my 1/2 inch goes up to 300 Newton meters. I think it starts at 60. Anyway, you didn't need to know that. Torque wrench, 25 Newton meters. Yep, it's not a lot of torque. Right, well, I got just a tiny fraction over 5 litres out, and it was a bit high on the dipstick. It was right on the maximum mark before I started, and I like it about 2/3 to 3/4, 2/3 of the way up between min and max. So I will put exactly that 5 litres back in it. And I've just got a funnel with a integral filter, just for safety, in case something's in that oil can, you never know. But yeah, this is going to take ages and ages to glug through that filter. Napa, not a sponsor. 1040 semi-synthetic, or you can use 1540 in these, whatever you fancy and whatever's cheapest. Right, just got let the remains go down the funnel, and then meanwhile I now have the empty oil can. Another one around here somewhere. Yeah, empty oil can. And I can decant that into there, so that then I end up with 5 litres of used oil. That was for the Mini 530, for the BMW Mini. And you can take that to the your council waste disposal site, and they'll have a big drum thing that you can just pour it in, and then you can chuck the plastic containers in the plastic waste containers. So yeah, there's no mess really. You haven't got to mess around with some drain pans. What I normally do, once all my oil's in there, I'll string up my suction pipe and squirt WD-40 or brake cleaner or anything down there just to clean the tube out. And then once you've decanted that into there, you can do the same. You can any sort of cleaner you fancy, you can clean that out with and put it in your can, or you can just leave it with oil in it. But I use this actually for oil, water, petrol, so each time I use it I clean it out. So I suppose it's similar to cleaning out one of them pans, but it's just contained tidier. And this kit comes with a convenient nozzle, so that's where your suction pipe would go on. That's where the vacuum pipe goes on. And then for pouring it out, what I normally do is take this diaphragm off, and it'll air in, oil out. So yeah, I find it very convenient. Right, so funnel any excess draining into my can. Filler caps back on, just check the level. I've just checked it, it's just above the full but obviously I need to start it and fill up that oil filter. You probably won't be able to focus, but it's just above the full. So I shall remove these rags and start her up. Okay, doors beeping. Glow plugs. Start her up. I'll just let it run for 30 seconds or a minute and then check the oil, but I've done it so many times on this I know it'll be at the right spot when I've finished. I was just trying to I was just trying to blow all the seeds off the car, but as quick as I can get rid of them, they're falling back on it from that tree up there. And the sap makes them stick as well. Anyway, I shall turn the engine off. I shall clean this up a bit and then we'll check the dipstick. Sure, you might not be able to see this, but it is exactly on the, just a fraction below the top maximum notch. It's not very easy to read from the front side because it smears for some reason. Anyway, that's it, that's done. Right, well that is draining into there. Doesn't always end well doing it like this, but I think I've got my little system sorted out now. Right, well before I finish and say goodbye, if the wind isn't too blowy, so I'll just run through what I've actually done to this van since I've owned it. So I put new 6-ply commercial tyres on it, which you need for the insurance because it's a commercial vehicle. Powder coated the wheels. On the front suspension, put new coil springs, but we can't see, and the top bearings, there's like on the top of the McPherson strut there's a bearing and a rubber cap, and that replaced those. Obviously serviced it 20,000 times. New discs and pads and hardware for the front brakes. New coil springs for the rear, which you can't see because they're underneath. Same wheels and tyres, obviously, all new. Coil springs, heavy duty. Oh, I put a rear exhaust on it. The old one wasn't blowing, but the outer skin had perished and the inner wasn't, and it was really cheap. Brake drums, brake shoes, brake hardware, brake actuators, brake adjusters, everything on the back. Just changed the whole lot and they work perfectly. I put on this roof rail, whatever you call it, pair of roof rails, got them from a Breakers with all the infill bits. I think I paid about 20 quid for the whole thing. It bolts on from the inside. Obviously my roof rack. Might be too dark to see in here. I bought this custom cut rubber mat from eBay. It's cut to the exact size of the van, and going inside, floor mats, etc. I put in a decent stereo with USB and all that modern stuff on it, one of these face-off thing. Now the car only came with 2 speakers, like all vans, just come with the 2 door speakers, but luckily the wiring for an Astra estate, because this is basically an Astra estate with no windows and no seat in the back, the wiring is all still in the vehicle. So I managed to get these tweeter panels, and the wiring was already in the door, so I just plugged them in, and then the wiring for the rear speakers, which would normally go in the rear doors of an Astra estate, or rear panels. I don't think they've got rear doors. Oh, anyway, the wiring for those was in the connector block here, so I just went straight into there, and then I put a pair of speakers in the back just for a bit more bass. These are only little, I think, 5-inch things from Halfords, but they're great. They're really good speakers, better than no speakers at all in the back. And other than that, just kept it clean and tidy. It's got 136,000 miles on it now, and it had I think 127,000 miles on it when I bought it. So 9 or 10,000 miles in the last 3 years. Oh, just over 3 years I've had it. But she's a good old girl. I only bought it because it was let's turn you around. Another out of order bit for the end. I also forgot to mention that in the back there's a secret cubby hole where you would have a seat if you had the rear seat conversion. It's just under the floor there, so you can keep all your mobile tools and stuff in it. Yeah, passenger seat. Probably loads of other stuff I've done to it, I can't remember. I'll continuously just tinker with it. Obviously you've seen that I've just done all the surface rust on the wheel arches and painted the bumpers. This is not a sales pitch because still don't know whether I'm keeping it or not, but if I'm not keeping it and in the future somebody wants to buy it, then this will be the sales pitch. But if not, if I do keep it, then just letting you know what I've done, like all my vehicles. I bought this particular van because I've always liked this van, the Vauxhall Astra or Vauxhall Envoy, but the early one with the Isuzu 1.7 diesel engine, direct injection, not common rail. The Isuzu engines were in these from 98 to 2002 or something near there, and they're a great little engine. They're not fast, but they're great. They're sort of indestructible, touch wood. Whereas the 2003 or 4 onwards was a Vauxhall engine, Vauxhall Common Rail CDTI engine, which yeah, don't even go there. So yeah, I'm not one for buying Vauxhalls. I've only owned, I had a Mark 1 Vauxhall Astra van, a Mark 1 Vauxhall Cavalier, and a Mark 2 Vauxhall Cavalier. Apart from the Mark 1 Cavalier, they were all terrible. I'm not a Vauxhall fan. But there you go. Anyway, so my mate at work, Graham, had this for a couple of years, and I had one of my previous vehicles, and Graham had this at work. Graham's got like a trader's policy, so he has to, every year or 2 years, he has to swap his vehicles round. And I kept saying to him every time, when it's time for this van, I want first offer. And when it came round time, I pestered him, and he sold it to me. And then I've done all the work since, and I've had it 3 years, and it's been brilliant. It's just a van. It's fantastic. Long stuff on the roof rack, short stuff in the back because it's only got a 5 foot long. This isn't a big van, long van, tall van, but it's just great for doing your hobbies and stuff in. Anyway, that's far too much waffle from me. Peace and love. Thanks for watching. I've been Springy, and I'll see you soon. I also, this is probably not in order, changed all of the hard brake lines apart from the 2 at the rear, which are perfectly fine. So every single brake line on this van has been replaced with new.